Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking onto today is going to be an unsolved missing persons case of Morgan Nick. This case was suggested by Brad, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have, and of course if you do have any more, please do let me know. Morgan Chantel Nick was born on the 12th of September in 1988 to her mother Colleen. Now, I could not find anything on her father whatsoever. As much as I tried, I like to get all this information that I can to try and find the mother's name, father's name, everything, but I just couldn't find it. And it's really frustrating, but there you go. Either way, she was born in Ozark, Arkansas in the US. Despite not being able to find out who her father was, I found out that she had a younger brother and a younger sister. Now, Morgan was a gorgeous little 6-year-old girl. She loved doing what 6-year-old girls do, playing out with her friends, spending time with her family, playing with her siblings. She loved to do different activities inside. She was just such a sweet little girl. Morgan loved to do activities outside too. Apparently she signed up to track and wanted to do running and things like that and just be an active little girl. She went and signed up for Girl Scouts too. Again, she just wanted to do all these different things and sort of spread her activities and just to enjoy everything that life threw at her and everything that she could enjoy. So she had two ideas of what she wanted to be when she was older. So she either wanted to be a doctor or a circus performer, which are two very different ends of the scale. Either way, she wanted to either entertain people or help people, which is just a lovely sentiment. Unfortunately, she would never be able to aspire to any of these dreams, at least as far as we know anyway, because she went missing on the 9th of June in 1995. Now, what had happened that day? Her and her mother went to a Little League baseball game. It was in Alma in Arkansas, and she was going there with her mum. Her younger siblings were apparently with their grandmother, so it was just going to be the two of them. They were going to go to this game, you know, enjoy it. There were going to be a lot of other people there as well, and they were just going to have fun watching this game and spending time together. She apparently started playing jokes on her mum, like sneakily untying her mum's shoelaces, things like that, you know, just being generally a little kid and just enjoying herself and being a little mischievous. So they were just there watching this ball game. Apparently it was quite late as well. I believe it was about 9, but you know, it was dark or getting dark, but there was a lot of people there. That was the time it was scheduled. It wasn't only her and her kids, you know, there was a lot of children there. It's estimated that there were about 300 people at that field. So Morgan sat on the bleachers with her mum watching the game, and then two kids approached her called Jessica and Ty. I believe one was 10 years old and one was 8 years old. I'm not sure which was which. And Morgan was a little bit shy at first, but they basically wanted to play with her. They were asking her if she would come and play with them. Although she was a bit shy at first, she did decide that she actually did want to go with them, and they wanted to go and catch fireflies up on this like hill that kids used to climb up. It was like a sand hill. There was construction in the area, I believe, and you know where you just dump a ton of sand there and you obviously start using it. Well, it had formed like a little pile and the kids used to play on it. So that was where they wanted to go, and they wanted to catch fireflies. Now, Colleen at first was very hesitant. She did not want to let Morgan out of her sight. But Morgan kept begging Colleen, and at this point it was about 10:30ish or getting close to 10:30, and it was getting close to the end of the game, so they weren't going to be playing alone for long, and before the game would end they were going to go home. So she decided that she would let her go, but she was going to keep an eye on her. Morgan was super excited. She threw her hands around her mother and told her thank you, and off she ran off to play. Apparently Colleen had said that the other mothers around her and the other parents at the ball game had basically been like, oh, go on, just let her go play, you know, nothing ever happens here, it will be fine kind of thing. And it more persuaded her to let her go. This is what she said, because she felt like she was being a bit overprotective in a sense. So Morgan goes, and then she keeps on checking like over her shoulder. I believe she probably could slightly see her in the peripheral, but she would have to look over her shoulder over to the kids' direction to see her. So she keeps doing that. She keeps checking on them. Yeah, she's there. Yeah, she's there. Yeah, they're still there. They're playing. And then just before, as the game is about to end, she looks over for a final time and she does not see Morgan. I believe this was about 15 minutes later. So She rushes over there, panics, thinking, where on earth is Morgan? She asks Ty and Jessica who, you know, where Morgan had gone, because they were still there playing. And they say that she'd actually gotten some sand in her shoes, and she decided to go over to their car in the car park, which was obviously her mother's car, where she was going to empty them out. And that was where they had last seen her. So Colleen made her way to the car, expecting to see Morgan there, but she was nowhere in sight. She began looking everywhere, looking under the car, literally everywhere that she could, running around frantic, trying to find her little 6-year-old girl. She couldn't see her anywhere. By that point, the game had actually ended. People were spreading out everywhere, and, you know, a lot of cars were leaving. And obviously, Colleen began to panic even more, and she actually rang the police and reported her daughter as missing. I believe other people joined in the help as well. I'm not sure whether it was actually Colleen that called the police or somebody that tried to help in the search for Morgan. It could have been either, because I can't quite remember that information. So yeah, the police got there very quickly, like they do with like a child going missing, and they began to do everything they could. They searched everywhere. They went to go and to speak to the 2 kids again who had been playing with Morgan, to see whether they'd accidentally missed something out or knew something more than they had told the mother or something like that. So they go and speak to them, and this is where they find out that the kids had actually seen this strange man stood close to this red pickup truck with like a camper in the back, like a white camper in the back, and he looked very creepy, and he was stood around the car park area, and obviously that is where Morgan went to go and empty her shoes.
I remember seeing somebody sitting up on the hill, leaning on his truck, and I remember he did say stuff to us, but I don't remember specifically what.
So the police get a description of this man from the children, and they do come up with a composite sketch, which I will show now. They tried to find this man, but he was gone. There was no red pickup truck, and again, a lot of people had already left because the game had finished. People were heading home. You know, they didn't really necessarily know that Morgan was missing, and they just headed home. Colleen actually ended up staying in a firehouse across the road for about 6 weeks whilst they were investigating and looking for her little girl, just so she could be there and on the scene just all the time. Everyone in the community began helping to look for Morgan. They were doing anything they could, distributing posters, you know, spreading the word, helping with police searches, just anything that they could. But the police were not able to find anything. Soon enough, the weeks turned into months, the months turned into years, and they did not find Morgan. So, some important information that was actually found out. Now, some sources have all this information, others only have bits of it. There's bits missing, so I don't think it's fully, the entire story is fully there, but I do believe that it is super important to this case, because the same day that Morgan went missing, there was another attempted abduction of a 4-year-old little girl. It was done by a man in a red pickup truck who attempted to get her in the car, but I believe the mother saw it and quickly pulled her out of the situation. That was the same day that Morgan was taken. And then, that was in the same town, that was in Alma, Arkansas, and then the next day after Morgan was taken, there was another attempted abduction of a 9-year-old girl in Fort Smith, Arkansas. So again, that one wasn't in Alma this time, but it was still in Arkansas, and it was done by a man in a red pickup truck. According to this 9-year-old little girl, this man had asked her to go into the men's restroom with him, and she had said no and basically resisted him, and luckily she didn't go with him and she was able to get away. Based off what the 4-year-old and the 9-year-old said, the description of the man that they give with this red pickup truck, it very much resembled the composite sketch they already had of the man that was seen around where Morgan was last seen. Now it is pretty safe to say at this point that everyone and the police truly believe that this man in this pickup truck was the one that took Morgan. It's not like she'd run away. You know, you can't assume that she just wandered off, that she ran away. This man was creepily hanging around and then she went missing. It's believed that he was the one that abducted her. Now, the thing with this case, obviously, we do not know what happened to Morgan, but tips to this day still come in, which is kind of amazing because a lot of cases get forgotten about. Not forgotten about, that's the wrong word, but a lot of people, I don't know, in the community maybe put it back to their mind, don't really think too much about it as the years pass on, and things get lost and don't ever get put forward because the case isn't at the forefront of their mind anymore. But this one is still receiving tips to this day, which is brilliant. So they continued to search for Morgan, but they were not successful in finding her. And then on the 15th of January in 2002, they got a tip to say that possibly Morgan's body was buried on this private piece of land. So they did end up actually digging up this private piece of land in Bonewell in Arkansas, but they didn't find anything. They brought in a police dog, and by 9:30 p.m. the search did end after nothing was indicated and they found no evidence of Morgan or anything. Then on the 15th of November in 2010, which was 8 years later, federal investigators searched a vacant house in Spiro, Oklahoma. They searched for basically anything relating to Morgan. I don't know, anything they could find to prove that she was once there or anything, but they found nothing. And again, the search was called off. We don't really know what happened to her after all these years. Over the years, age composite sketches have been done from when she was little to how old she would have been now. There's a $60,000 reward out for information on her case, and I really hope that one day we do find something. Morgan's family do really believe that there's somebody out there that knows a key piece of information that is yet to come forward. Maybe they're frightened. I don't know. Maybe they have, I don't know, put it at the back of their minds and just not really thought about it since. But if you know anything with regards to Morgan's case, please do come forward, even if it's an anonymous tip. If you don't want your name out there because you're frightened that somebody might do something to you as a result, you know, there are places that you can do it anonymously and not even give your name. Like I said, there was a description of the man, there was a description of this red pickup truck. They searched the area, they tried to take DNA from the scene. However, there were about 300 people there that night. You know, they took cans, like cigarette butts, drinks, tissue, anything that they could to try and take DNA, but it didn't really narrow anything down because, again, there were so many people there. And who's to say any of that even belonged to the person that took Morgan in the first place? Because if they hadn't, I don't know, had a drink or used a tissue or anything, then their DNA wouldn't even be on that, and they could be testing this DNA, and all it is of parents and people that were there that night. It's really believed that, I don't know, the person that took Morgan may have been an opportunist. Like, either that they knew this ball game was going on and that children would be there, so that makes you believe that they knew somebody that was going to be there to know that information, or that they were simply just driving past, saw that there was loads of kids hanging around, an opportunist, and with, you know, it in mind that they wanted to take a kid. Maybe they had tried to take that little 4-year-old girl initially. She'd screamed, it had gone wrong, or however, spooked them, and they fled, but was on the search for another girl. Maybe this is either the first time they've done it, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's not the first time that they've done it, and maybe they're a serial abductor or something like that. We just don't know at this point. But they could have been driving past that game, seen all the kids there, and then sort of gone in, hung around, and then saw Morgan on her own without, you know, a parent's supervision or anybody really around in such an unfortunate circumstance, and then just taken her. When Morgan disappeared, she had blonde hair, blue eyes, and 5 visible silver caps on her teeth. She was wearing a green Girl Scout t-shirt, blue denim shorts, and white tennis shoes. So again, if you know anything, if that description sparks your memory, her picture of her sparks your memory whatsoever, please come forward with any information that may be important in this case. You could be the key to solving it, to cracking it. Since Morgan's disappearance, her mother has done everything she could to try and find a little girl. And not only that, literally not long after Morgan went missing in 1996, she started the Morgan Nick Foundation. And it is a foundation that helps parents cope with missing children and actually helps to prevent them from going missing in the first place, and for people to understand everything that surrounds it. I find the strength of Colleen to do something like that after her own daughter was missing, so that she didn't want anybody else to try and prevent it and to help other people to not have to go through something like she did. Is just amazing, especially when it was so raw. She did it so quickly, and it's such a great foundation. There was also an Amber Alert service named after her in Arkansas, which is called the Morgan Nick Amber Alert Service. Honestly, my heart breaks for Morgan and her family. She was 6 years old. Her mum did not want to let her go off on her own to play, but she did, because it was near the end of the game. She thought she was being overbearing, and she just figured that, you know, what could go wrong. But the worst happened. She went missing, and it is just so heartbreaking. How Colleen must have felt in that moment, and how much... Not that I'm saying that it's her fault, because it isn't. It's not her fault at all. It is the person who took Morgan's fault. They should have never ever taken her. It's so horrific what they did, stealing that little girl away from her mum. But if it was me and in her shoes, I would blame myself. And I can only, this is only an assumption. I'm not saying that, you know, she has, but it's human nature to put the blame on yourself, I guess. So over the years, Colleen has probably blamed herself for it all, you know, and there's a lot of what ifs. What if I did that? What if I didn't let her go? Not that you have to try not to think like that, because, you know, at the end of the day, you can't change what happened. You can't change the past, and the what ifs just lead to more sadness and more heartache. But as human beings, that is what we do, and we do think like that. So I can only imagine what Colleen went through after all of that. And it honestly breaks my heart. No mother should ever have to lose a child and go through something like that. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. Despite all the time that's passed, it's been over 25 years now, you know, Colleen is not giving up on her daughter, and she wants to find out who did this, whether she's still alive, because potentially she could be. If somebody has abducted her, sometimes children get taken and get raised as their own. You know, she was 6. She was potentially young enough to be sort of brainwashed into thinking that somebody else was her parent or something like that, and sort of be manipulated in that way. So she could still be alive. They're at age progressions done of her, so I will put that up now of what she would be like now. If you recognize her, please do come forward with some information. But the sad aspect is that we don't actually know if she is still alive or not. Because if somebody is like a serial abductor or something like that, then it's more likely that she isn't, unfortunately. We just don't know. We don't know anything. And that is why we need someone to come forward with information on this case. And my heart, as always, goes out to the family. Morgan Nick's case still remains unsolved. And that is the end of this one. If you guys have enjoyed the video, give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of Morgan Nick. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, bye.